What's up, dirt bike enthusiasts? This is Colton Udall. In this video I'm going to show you how to remove the ignition cover, the stator, drop it in a shipping box to Ricky Stator, receive it, bolt it back together. These bolts obviously are hand tight for video purposes. This cover has been Cerakoted by Champ 8 EV. Yours truly. Alright, so now once you got all the bolts out of the ignition cover, make sure you drain the oil obviously before you take these bolts out. If you don't know how to do that, I can make a video about it, but you should pretty much know how to drain the oil out of your engine if you're going to change your stator. Now, bolts are all out. We're going to remove the ignition oil filter cover. This obviously is brand new. You'll have an oil filter cover, oil filter, and spring. Make sure it comes out like that. I just assembled all this, so I'm taking it apart just to show you. Clutch cover comes off, or I'm sorry, the clutch cable. Oil cover with oil filter comes out. You don't have to take that out, but when you take this cover off and flip it over and you don't clean the oil out of here, it will pour out, so it'll be a pain in the butt. The next thing you can remove is this one center case bolt, 8mm. It holds the cover, or the holder to the ignition line, and it's going to look like one of these clips when yours is brand new. When you send it to Ricky Stator, they actually cut that off. They don't send it back, so when you go back together, you just do a zip tie. Now, I've removed this engine mount for ease. Can't necessarily see it. I removed this engine mount. Obviously 3 bolts, pretty easy. There's a clip here. Just pull that tab. Undo the tab for the hold all the wires. The ignition cover can get there's some wires in here that are quite difficult to get to. You have this is the cable and plug for basically what the coolant outlet eliminates. 3 wires here are the 3-phase output of the stator, and then there's another wire here. It's really important to make sure that the clips get pushed all the way in before you start pulling on those connectors, so you'll actually hear a snap in the connector, and then you can release. I'll see if I can't get it on film here. So we're above where the tank sits, and you can kind of see my finger in here on this tab. That's the first one. You want to push inward and then pull. And then now coming around here, the tab you're looking for the stator, 3-phase. You'll see it. You can see my thumb in there. Very hard to get a shot of it, but you can kind of hear. That's the sound you want, and you want to indent that thing. And it's actually on a metal tab that this whole piece will bend if you pull too hard, so you want to get 2 hands in there. Okay, here's a different view of the 3-phase connection. I'm going to go over to the other side and remove it. So we got the first plug undone. The second plug is the 3-phase connector. You want to push down this button here completely. And when you pull on this connection, it's best to actually use a screwdriver like this. So you push the button down and then just wedge it sideways and it'll pry out. Let's see if I can do it well. This eliminates, really, there's that snap, and then just lightly open with the screwdriver to get that seal pulled apart. Now that you have these connections broke free and you get this connection unbolted, in order to remove one of these clips, your ignition cover clip is going to be behind there. You can use like an 8mm T-handle and almost detent the side, or a 6mm T-handle actually works better for this size. And what you want to do is just get both these tabs to go inward, but a 6mm T-handle works actually. 6mm T-handle clips right on it, puts enough pressure on it, and the thing comes right off. So I always leave obviously the bottom one because it's the shift sensor and it doesn't go anywhere, so that clip just stays on there. But for the ignition cover and the lines, you want to get that unclipped. Now your cover should come right off. It's going to have a little bit of magnetic pull from the stator and the flywheel. The gasket is like a metal gasket, and they are reusable if you take care of them. You can see it sticks to this flywheel. Now we're gonna go over to the bench and take the stator out. All right, so now we're going to take the stator out of the cover so you can get it all boxed up and shipped. These 8mm bolts, the threads are actually a 5x8, so they take a little bit less torque when you go to put it back together. Be careful about that. Make sure you put some Loctite on them when you go back together. We'll talk about that when we go back together with it. Careful not to break your dipsticks. Don't put any pressure on it. This is your pickup. Sometimes on older model bikes, metal will connect the two leads of the pickup and you'll lose spark. So if you're ever losing spark, make sure you check all the connections of your stator. Take these 5mm Allens out, 3 of them. These are a 6x1 bolt, so they require a little bit more torque than the other ones. It's really important to just take care of all these bolts and be really meticulous in tightening them so you don't run into any issues. 5 bolts, whole stator comes right out. Now this is a Ricky Stator rewind already, so drop it in a box like this and get it all wrapped up in some bubble wrap. It ends up looking something like this when they ship it back. This is specifically a Gen 1. They'll ship it in a box like this, so get it nice and tight so it doesn't have any movement, and then ship it off to Ricky Stator. I suggest Ricky Stator. They've done a really good job for me in the past, and I've been working with them for a couple of years now with no issues. I have had one Stator fail, but it was the exciter coil side on a Gen 1 Stator, not anything else. So all right, so you get your Stator back. Comes in this box. Open it up, check it out. Looks nice. Make sure that you use red high temp Loctite. It's like a medium strength Honda Loctite, or at least just get some Loctite on there just so these bolts never come out. Set the
stator into the area. Make sure that rubber piece slides right into the case. It's helpful sometimes to push the wires down in the back. Makes clearance for the pickup wires. There's a little detent in the pickup, so, and I've already added the red Loctite onto these bolts. Again, they're a 5 by 0.8 thread pitch. They require 3.8 foot-pounds, which is not very much. So I usually hand tighten these with Loctite. Don't go overboard. You'll know when they feel secure pretty much. If you've got quite a bit of experience, you put these stator mounting 5mm bolts in. Again, they are a 6 by 1 thread pitch, so they're 7 foot-pounds if you're going to torque them, or 84 inch-pounds. Once you get the stator in, pretty much ready to go, going back together. It's important to make sure that you don't drop anything down in the orifice, the sealing surface. That seal goes around the crankshaft here, and so it's important to just put a little bit of lube, or if you already have lube in there, it'll slide on really nicely. Don't want to drop anything in any of these ports because that goes into the oil filter. Make sure you're all real nice and clean, and it's time to go back together. So before you go back on with the ignition cover and the stator, check over your gasket. Make sure you got your dowels in the right spot. There's a large one down here you can't really see, and then a smaller one here. Put the gasket on. Again, you can wipe these down. The stock OEM ones are fully reusable. Never had any issues. We have all the bolts tight, and the surface is all clean. As you slide it back on, the stator's going to want to pull on. You saw that, kind of like just pulls on, and that the crankshaft is sticking out and actually goes into that seal surface I showed you earlier. You just want to make sure you're gentle with that. You don't want to tear that seal surface, or it will prevent a solid oil pressure. So now, obviously, going back together with the bolts. And the oil filter. Lost the spring. I always put pressure on the oil filters in the center and then lightly rotate back and forth, and it'll make that O-ring slide into place without doing any damage to the seal to the O-ring itself. Get that bolt put in, and then it'll hold. Remember that the longest bolt you take out is that center case. You want to tuck your lines behind that little stainless steel mount. Get it all lined up real nice. Run it in with a T-handle. Use 84 inch-pounds of torque. When you're putting the bolts back in, if you've mixed them up, they actually tell a little bit of a story. They'll only stick out a certain amount, and if you get them all in the right spot, they'll all stick out like a finger width.
And that's kind of how you know. Or you can go on a parts fish and actually look up the lengths, and it'll tell you, Honda's parts fish will tell you exactly the lengths that you need in which spot. So I'm going to show you my theory here after I get this. Set your torque wrench at 7 foot-pounds or 84 inch-pounds. I'm going to torque this center case bolt. Be done with that. Now we can run the clutch line back together. Run that one in with the T-handle so it just holds everything. Now I'll show you. You can see all the bolts have about like a finger width. That's how you know you've got them all in the right spot. If you guys take your plastic covers off and you're looking for a bolt kit, Champion Adventure sells a small little bolt kit. Comes with spec bolts, or you can source your own out of a 450R and figure it out yourself. But I've already done it for you, so time and money, of course. Run these in with a T-handle. Whenever I'm torquing the area around this seal where the stator wires come out, I always push down and then give it just a nice snug. That way that rubber seal is tight and down. Alright, so the ignition cover's on. All the bolts are now torqued at 84 inch-pounds. New oil filter. You guys have seen all that. If you guys are just checking it out, obviously this is a Cerakote coating. It's actually a pretty durable process. That's why I repainted these covers. Looks pretty nice. Rewound stator. Got the electrical all tied back up. That little stainless piece all figured out. Wiring all happy. Don't forget to fill up the oil. And have a good time running solid lights like an XL80 or a race lights, because you have a larger output stator in your CRF 450X.